Hello everybody and welcome back to Wappelville. This is a little Monday Night Madness here, and we're going to take that to Middle-earth, a little Middle-earth strategy battle game. We've had these three undead guys, Army of the Dead, ready for quite a while. Haven't had a chance to paint them. What better time than in Sporktober, as in spooks and orcs, sporks. We need to fill out the rest of our Army of the Dead. Anyway, we have a bunch of them that are already painted, but we have, not outside of just a couple of guys with some hand weapons, maybe a few spears, really not much of anything else. So definitely looking forward to getting the King and the Heralds done here, because we had really nothing to represent him specifically. We are also going to be exploring the fluorescent green here again as we welcome in our intrepid moderator. Thank you so much. I was trying to mix this. I never did get a chance to mix this green over here.
So say we all.
Hey, Mini Day Trader. Thank you so much. Boom, he's waiting for it. He's like, there's nothing here. There's just this big old scary pink jar. I'm not as scared of jars. He says, I'm not afraid of nothing here. He's like, whoa. He's afraid of those ghosts. So thank you so much for that. I appreciate it. Now, I did get to refill my cadmium green. We haven't had this out in forever. For a long, long time. Hey, Welsh Gamer Guy, how are you doing? Yeah, sorry, I meant this to start about a half an hour ago, but there was all kinds of stuff. I should have just, what I should have done was called out the Rohirrim, Ride to Ruin, and the world's ending. Actually, Welsh Guy, I think you were around when we were painting some of these guys, right, in oils. You know what I gotta do? I gotta make one of these little things, but have my Army of the Dead on there. So how are you doing? I hope that all is well. Now where's the... this is what I'm looking for. So we've got these here, these banners. And as you can see, we were doing this combination of glowy and, shall we say, corroded. Some glowy corrosions. Hey, Kit Quartz, welcome in. How are you doing? Oh boy. Now I got a fun little surprise for you guys. Where's my here it is. Burnt Sienna, Terra Rosa. So I did another one of those color chart videos, right? And direct your attention to the Terra Rosa and the Burnt Sienna. I think that looks now have they kind of re-released those? Is it still just the metal ones, or is there some Forge World ones now? Because all I have is one of the old metal ones, which keeps collapsing because it's on one leg. As much as I like it, I would love Army of the Dead Horsemen. That would be fabulous. So take a look at it. Now, you've seen me using Terra Rosa a lot. Hey, Queels, how are you doing? Now, which I haven't seen. Yeah, Kit, I really do enjoy the green, especially with, well, Army of the Dead. Now, you can see this is glossier than the Terra Rosa, right? You can see that it's a little bit more, say, intense in some ways than the Terra Rosa. Okay. Yeah, and those are probably, I'm going to say probably about 28 bucks a piece, something like that. So yeah, I think I might just do some conversions or something along those lines if I can. Hey, Gurney, how are you doing? Now get this. These two right here, Pigment Red 101 or Pigment Red 112. They're the exact same Pigment Red. So we've been having a lot of discussions here about pigment numbers. But think of coffee grinds. So you've got, I don't know, whatever, hazelnut coffee, something like that. If you grind it coarse, that's going to give you a very different result than, say, if you grind it super fine. Because super fine may let you do, what, like a cappuccino or something? So who knows, maybe this is very fine ground pigment, 101 or 112 or whatever it was. Maybe this is coarsely ground. Maybe this is the other way around. I don't know. But this is why I keep telling people those pigment numbers, don't be relying on those. Because not only are these two totally different colors, look at this. No shine. Look at how shiny that thing is. Look at how transparent this one is. This is one of the most opaque watercolor or opaque oils there are. And we'll be flashing these a couple of times during the course of this session here, so just kind of be ready for that. But that's something that I wanted people to see because that is, and actually raw sienna and yellow ochre were the same exact thing. Actually, believe it or not, I was able to snag that. Now, he's still in here. I also have a Gandalf on horseback ready to go. I also have the Saruman. I don't know if you've seen my AON video, but I got AON. She is done. That was a YouTube video. Hey, DiMarino, how are you doing? Yeah, so I mean, does outside of Perry Brothers, is it Fireforge Games or something like that that makes some of the other historical stuff, like those Templars we were talking about? So again, we're gonna have some of our cadmium green in here. Obviously, gonna have phthalo green. Speaking of Terra Rosa, let's get that stuff back out here. And I rearranged all the paints here, so it's gonna be something I have to get used to. So just let me get used to that again. There's my tarot. This is going to be part of my rust color here. We're also going to respect the umber. Oh, we also have raw umber out here too. Because, well, we haven't had that really before. You know what? I'm going to actually throw out a little bit of this Chronacronome Golden Brown. Oh, Steve Barber. Oh, why does that name sound familiar? Oh, let's see. Yeah, now you saw the... You saw when we were doing Erkenbrand, right? Because we did him, and now this is the old Erkenbrand. Well, actually, it's not like they have a new Erkenbrand. This is the metal Erkenbrand right here. But yeah, we did up this one on a stream not that long ago, actually. It's up on YouTube now. And Welsh Gamer Guy, you saw the final results on the Witch King, right? Oh, let's just scroll all the way down there and boom, there we go. Now, I still haven't had a chance to get more pictures ready, but we got these two at least. So yeah, we got him all done. That was just, man, that was so much fun. Now I'm gonna make sure that this is the right scene. Yep, it's the right scene. So what we're gonna try and do is act well. Now I have to scroll all the way down to my Army of the Dead here because wait, there. So that is what we're looking for, is that sort of a look. And as you can see, that's one of my army painting series right there. As our moderator posts the link to that particular video. Now there are YouTube videos of me painting these in acrylics, but we're going to do some pre-glazing here. We're going to set these guys off to the side, out of the way here. And I do believe this one was painted in oils. Yeah, I think we painted this one in oils on a stream a little while ago. I am going to need a little bit of this, so we'll keep playing around with this fast matte white. Hey Ecto, how are you doing? It was very busy. I was able to shoot a video late Sunday night, and of course we did lots and lots of streaming. We were able to get a bunch of different figures done. We even played with the iridescent paints for the first time, like really the first time, and we were using them on this guy here. So we were using them to try and actually get the fluorescent here a little bit more metallic looking, and it actually worked. So you can actually mix that. Now the interference blue, I didn't try mixing that with the green, but I did paint it over the top over here, and that was some interesting results right there. I painted some. So that was kind of fun to get to use the interference blue outside of just the, oh, wow, that's really bright there. That's kind of fun. Hey, Jara, how are you doing? So Ecto, what was neat was that you could actually mix that iridescent with the fluorescent green, because I tried to do that with the silver, both the MIG ammo silver and also the Gamlin silver, and that did not work at all. So here, we'll just grab these guys. And you can see how this is kind of dingy and nasty. The iridescent didn't do this. to the silver, and that was the MIG ammo, and the Gamelin was even worse, so it just kind of wiped out those stuff. Let's see, are those, yep, they are the Marion Street fluorescents. I also reorganized my shelves here, so it may take me a little while to kind of reorient myself. Now this is, I gotta get the magenta. Gotta get the magenta for this. We are using the green fluorescent right here. Well, sure, I hope that the calendar stuffs go well. I hope it's kind of relaxing, right? So we are going to be incorporating the iridescence into our Necron series. I didn't want to try and do it on the color test figure because there wasn't enough here. But now that we're doing the whole rest of the thing and there's bigger carapace surfaces to do, we're going to be playing around with definitely playing around with some of that iridescent and see what happens there. Hey, Sky King, how are you doing? Use the Williamsburg white gold on my custody, still not sure about it. I guess you can just kind of test it on some different things. I don't know if you have plastic card, but maybe take what am I trying to say? Take a piece of plastic card, prime it, and see what happens. Now I'm just gonna try one of these here just for the pre-glaze part of this. Now, we really don't want to beat these up too much, but let's just see. Let's just see what happens. And our pre-glaze, I'm thinking, yeah, we'll glaze in the umber and the Terra Rosa. That's what we're going to do. That's pretty much what we've done all the time on these previously. Look at this. We got a Kathy in the house. Oh, hey, Lady B, how are you doing? And Angry Ham in the house. So the palette, as always.
So say we all. So say we all.
Oh, Sky King. Thank you. Oh, it's Parm. Parm doing the 4-month subscription. Well, he's going to get some of this. We toast you with the mostest there. And we're going to take a sip of that too. Thank you so much. And Wappelia says,
so
man.
Say we all. So say we all.
Hey, Frozen Prawn, not Frozen Pawn. Frozen Prawn, thank you so much. He's like, I know there's ghosts. I know there's ghosts. I know there's ghosts. It's like, man, what is it with this month and the ghosts? He's out. Just coming off the longest session was kind of 80% of the time, and we ran over about 2 hours. So here we go. It's the same parchment paper that I would normally use for my wet palette, except I just used a little glue stick, and I just glue it to a piece of cardboard. I mean, literally just a piece of cardboard, because when you are done, you just take that and you peel that right off. All right. Now this palette, actually, we have been using, this is our 3rd session, so we've already used this palette for 15 hours. This is the difference between the oils and the acrylic. This was acrylic, there would be 5 layers of paint everywhere. But since this is oils, and this is nothing more than a CSD, color storage device, there's really just paint sitting on here. We aren't doing anything else with it, but just letting the paint sit on there. So we're going to just do one of these here. Let's see. Now we're going to try some of the... Actually, we're going to have to put some more of the Van Dyke Brown out here. Nope, that's burnt umber. That's raw umber. There's my Van Dyke Brown. Somehow that already... I don't want to say it's dried out, but their indigo is just fine. And we're just going to hit some of these surfaces here. And then we'll do our usual sponge. Take some of this away, but a little more. Wow, look at the tip on that. No, we're just going to use some of our beat up brushes for that. There's no sense in destroying the fantastic tip on those things. So those are the new, well, I don't know if they're new, but never used the Royal Langnickel before, but they are really fantastic. Let's see. Oh, hey, Eric, excellent. How are you doing? Yeah, And we'll just be nice and targeted with this because I know there was the question. And so, folks, as we do this here, I know the guys that were here early, well, all the folks that were here early, they saw that comparison between the burnt sienna and the Terra Rosa. And it was another example of why we use our eyeballs instead of just looking at numbers, because the pigment numbers of those two colors are the same, yet they are about as similar as raisins and cocoa beans. I mean, are they small and sort of oblong? Yes. Are they anything alike? No. And that's those two colors, yet they share the exact same pigment number. So this is, I know we've had that discussion a lot. It's essentially like coffee grinds. It's essentially like coffee grinds, and just think you grind it really fine or whatever, that's going to let you do like a cappuccino, or I guess that you use the fine ground stuff for cappuccino, and then all the rough ground stuff is for other things. Well, they must be grinding one really fine and with the other one really rough. And there was no difference in the oils either. I think they both had safflower and linseed. So we're just going to get ourselves some phthalo green going here. Hey, Brushcraft, how are you doing? Let me see. I want to let you know how I got on with the Winsor Newton brushes. Found they're pretty good, but had so much less spring back to them. I feel they keep the last position they held for a while. Yeah, Sky King, it was really interesting to see that it was the exact same pigment number. It was hilarious. Oh, and it was the same brand of paint, too. It wasn't like one was Winsor Newton, the other one was Gamlin or something like that. They were the same brand of paint. So, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but looking at pigment numbers ain't going to really help you that much. Because that, oh, and there was another instance too, as I was filming that, there was another instance of the exact same thing. Two colors, same pigment, couldn't be more different. So, I'm not saying, I'm just saying. So Brushcraft, I've been wanting to get to the Herald and his two buddies here, Herald and the Heraldettes. We've been wanting to get to these for months, haven't had a chance to, and now I'm sort of glad because, well, it kind of gives me a chance to show some of the newer things that we've been trying to do. And I didn't have Terra Rosa. I think this was, which was the one? Oh, I think this one we painted in oils not that long ago. I think we did have the fluorescent green by then, but as much as we love the metal banner bearer here, he gets a little bit topsy-turvy on rough terrain sometimes. So that's the nice thing about these guys is maybe if there's going to be a rough terrain situation, we'll use this guy. And if it's more of a flat open thing or lots of buildings or something like that. Now what I'm actually going to do, you can see I'm already starting to get some of the green down into the, down here onto the floor level. Yeah, Lady B, it's just unfortunately there are folks that they are just absolutely convinced that pigment numbers are everything, and now I finally have just hard evidence, proof, whatever, that I can say, look, those pigment numbers aren't what you think they are. So it's unfortunately people really, 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 really want to match things like exactly, and well, hopefully that just kind of maybe in a disappointing way, it gets them to not invest in something they shouldn't be really investing a lot in anyways. Let me see. Nosferatu just diluted a tube of Windsor Blue and a tube of Windsor Blue Red, and they're both pigment blue 15. Yes, Nosferatu. That's pretty wild, isn't it? Now, talk about two things that aren't even round and or oblong or anything like that and small. That's two very different things. So that's pretty wild. All right, so let's do this on a few more here. Boy, some of this phthalo green's been sitting out in the palette a little bit of while here. Let's I mean, I have just given it a try. I like the Schminke more than Old Holland and Williamsburg. Yeah, actually, I have not had a chance to get the Schminke yet. Um, it kind of depends on when the. No, no, we'll wait on that. The what you those the prototypes for the actual oil paints that I've been talking about. I don't want to just keep getting tubes and tubes here only to find out now I've got to test prototypes. So I think I'll just have to kind of stick with the ones that I've got. Let me see. Let's see. Machines are more expensive. Oh yeah, Lady B. I did watercolors for many years. Actually, you know those 2D pieces, the first couple ones that I show, those are all watercolors. And the cobalt violet, the one tube of cobalt violet, it was a tiny little tube. It was this size. It was 27 bucks. And that was 30 years ago. Can you imagine what it costs now? That was a tiny little tube, and it cost that much money that many years ago. I can't. I don't even want to think about how much it costs now. Yeah, Lee. I just wish that. Well, I can find hot press illustration board, but I can't find. Well, at least not anything that I can order from. Even Dick Blick, who used to have hot press watercolor board, I can't find hot press watercolor board anywhere. That was my favorite surface. It's not that the illustration board is bad, it's just, well, you know, with watercolors, watercolor board is made for them and will not have as much deformation and warpage. It doesn't really seem like we're changing colors here, but we actually are changing colors, believe it or not. Actually, I'm just going to toss a smidge of my cadmium green in here. Let me see. So Nosferatu, I hope that all is well. Jackson Art sells the Massini for a decent price. No tax free. Oh, that's always appealing there, Ecto, for sure. Let's see. Norma goes for 6 to 10 euros a tube. Massini range from 8 to 30. And Drift found a bunch of old gouache. Oh, but the oils are MIA. Ah, yeah, that would have been sweet to find those. That could have been very sweet. Now let's get out sponges here. More sponges. Let's slice some sponges. Like so. Now actually, right before I get to that, I'm going to bring these back out again since we have a whole bunch of new folks here. And so here's our beloved Terra Rosa, right? And here's Burnt Sienna, which we haven't seen out on the palette in a long time. We'll bring it back up, but look at the glossiness of that. Look at the transparency of that. This here is dead flat and totally opaque. It is one of the most opaque oils there is. And yet these are both the exact same pigment number. So clearly the grind is very different. Hey, look at this. We have a ghost. We have a ghost that's going to watch painting of ghosts. Ghosts. Of course, not quite these ghosts. Now, I was tempted to paint them like this here, but what we're actually going to do, I think, is we're going to do the Twilight ring wraiths. Remember, we have those. So we will get the Twilight ring wraiths going. That'll probably be the Friday show, I'm thinking. Sort of a Friday Fright Night or something like that. And if possible, there's a certain orc that I'm hoping to have ready to go for the Saturday extravaganza. Because the 3 Twilight ring wraiths, that's basically like painting these 3 guys as far as time consumption. Oh, he's looking up here. Let's see. Small. There's something to leach out to make it small. Let's see. Whoops. What brushes do you use for? There is. They're the same exact brushes that I use for acrylics. They're essential. Well, they're just the number 8 rounds. Now we have been experimenting with some new stuff here. These are basically different sizes of essentially the one true brush. Because check this out. So think of these as just smaller versions of the number 8 round. Also, where's my filberts? I have started to experiment with some filberts. Now these guys also have filberts, and I'm thinking of getting some of these in filbert form because those are really neat. Yeah, Inner Excellence. It was Pigment Red 101, and I mean, for me there was no. I mean, I wasn't really shocked
So
by
say
that.
we all.
Hey, Ford Fitch, how are you doing? A 6-month subscription. He's like, I don't care if there's ghosts. I'm gonna get that thing. I'm gonna get all the splashies. Thank you so much. That is well and truly appreciated. I hope that you're doing well, and I'll be at least a decent weekend. Now let's do some paint removal here. Let's do a bit of paint removal. I mean, even here, just removing the paint. Look at this. Just taking the paint away. Look at what that does. And as you can see, there was no Zenithal or anything like that. No, we welcome in a Trader Legions too. How are you doing? I hope you had there was at least a, if it wasn't a fun week, at least a relaxing weekend, a chill weekend, a weekend to sort of recharge a bit. I mean, that's just, it's kind of like just stealing candy. It's that easy. We're just removing some paint, and then when we add our lighter colors over the top of this, it's going to get even more interesting. So let's get let's get the king ready over here. Now let's see, some lovely tequila. Yeah, I'm going to have to get some more of the stream sauce tomorrow, for sure. Because, well, I'm out of mine. We have Kathy's, but not mine. Let me see. I think we're all set. Now we are going to, this has got a bit of the indigo in it here. Not just the phthalo. Oh, let's get some berry white green into this. Looks like I have to put some out on the palette. There's my berry white green, otherwise known as barite green. Oh, and remember the experiment we did in the last session where we took the, was it the blue-gray from Holbein and we mixed that? Well, we took, because the pigment numbers was the same as ultramarine blue, and we tried just mixing it with white, and it gave us an entirely different color. Massively different. So here, this is going to be a bit of a cooler green right here. That's what pre-shading, it's putting the pre in pre-shading. Look at this. Let's get some more of that green into here. Yeah, when I was first prepping these, I was not really using the oils that much. I thought maybe I think this was before Adepticon. It definitely was before Adepticon when I had these assembled. Doing great today, although the day went by too quick. Well, I hope that, I hope everybody actually has a very good week here. I know I could just use a week with maybe a little less mayhem. That would be nice. We're going to get some of our darker stuff in here, maybe on the crown, and then I'm going to go back to our phthalo, and then now start to put in touches of that cadmium green. So we went cooler down here, up here, it's lighter, and this is actual cadmium green. That's see how intense that is right there. That's the real deal. That's not faux cadmium green or hue or anything like that. Why? Because we want that to combine with our phthalo green, and remember we're also going to be hitting the fluorescent over the top of it. Get in his crown over here. This one, wow, there's tons of nooks and crannies. This is why I always have these destroyed ones like this, because you can see we're just jamming this brush into all of these crevices just to make sure there's paint there. And we're making sure we wipe out all of that primer, which is, as always, the same old Badger Steiner Res. And these days I'm just using whatever some of the lighter colors are. I don't really care. It's not that big a deal. I just want a decent quality primer on there. That's all I really need. And I think we're ready to wipe away some paint here. We got sponges. And away we go. Now you can tell that these colors aren't quite so staining. The berry white green and our cadmium green, not as staining of a color. Over here, however, where we've got the indigo and the phthalo green, that's going to stain a little bit more. Hey, Mose and Roy Experience, how are you doing? Well, T is the middle name, and that just stands for trouble. You know it does. James T. Wappel, and the T most definitely stands for trouble. All the time. We're putting the hem in mayhem right here. So we've got our paint removed just a pinch. So that didn't take long. And for some folks, they'd say, oh yeah, that's good enough. I'm going to just snap a little quick picture over here of what these guys look like in their pre-glaze phase. I never really get a chance to do that very much, so I'm going to give that a shot here. I might even put this light on just to get a little more light into the frame. So 1 second, boom, there we go. Turn off the light. And we're going to play with a couple of filberts, some other things, and let's get in here with our, this is our fast dry white. However, it's also mixing with a little bit of that cadmium green, which is going to make it a little bit lighter. And we want this thing to be pretty dry, as always. Light brush stroke. Always light. Look at how that mixes. I mean, it's within 15 minutes. I mean, you could, in theory, have about half a dozen of these things painted, highlighted, and everything, and people would say that just looks fantastic. Now look at how much of the paint that we picked up here. Let me see, what colors are staining? Colors. Well, Oliver goes to anything that's going to be like those super transparent colors: phthalo, phthalo green, phthalo blue, alizarin crimson, and there's a bunch of different ones that sort of have similar names to that. So just think of those type of really, really intense dark colors. Those diazonine purple slash Egyptian violet is another one that's going to be a staining color. Now with the acrylics, that doesn't, you don't really have the staining colors, not because, well, they just kind of unfortunately wipe all those properties away when they make the acrylics. Watercolors have staining properties. Look at this. Look at how dark that is. As Queels says, we're going to make him brave the ghosts. We're going to make him brave the ghosts because he says we get a hype train going tonight. Yep, Queels coming in hot. But I think, did we shatter the old record for level 5 hype trains? Going beyond the level 5? I think we did. Oh, look at this. Is that easy or is that not easy? So thanks so much, Wheels. I appreciate that. Oh, man, it's just... it's insane how easy that can. Now, let's not just use this warm green everywhere. We want to use some cooler greens too. And I might have to go into the some of the settings, like say our, let's get a little bit more of that cadmium green in here. I might have to go into our white balance to try and make sure you can see some of that. Now, do I want the warm green here or the cool green? I think I might want some of the warm there and then cool around here. So let's go warm here. And that's insanely light brushstroke. I mean, it it's about as light as you could possibly get here. Just about as light as you could get. See what that brings out so fast. And look at now we have the, it's more of a middle tone here. It's cooler. Hey, cosplaying kitten, how are you doing? So these are some Army of the Dead here. These are some of the specialty figures. So this is, well, we're just calling them Herald and the Heraldettes. Actually, I'm going to change my focus a little bit here just to make sure that that is good for you guys. And they are matching my Army of the Dead. So you can see we've got references there and over there for what we're doing. And folks, be sure to give Cosplaying Kitten the follow because, well, you were streaming yesterday. I got the notification that you were streaming. So hopefully that was fun. And see how that's mixing with some of those cooler colors. Then we're going to, once this stuff sort of settles, we're going to put a little bit of our green glow onto that as well. And remember, this is just one phase of this because we want to also, we want to do all this lovely corrosion and all that other sort of stuff. It's this combination of glowy stuff and corrosion. Yep, Parm, it is definitely Herald's Heralds. I mean, well, if we're going to have the greatest buddy movie of all time and the Witch King and Melvin getting up to their little hijinks and adventures, that means we got to have somebody for the other side too. And what better than Herald? Herald and the Heralds. Hey, Trash, how are you doing? Pledging that allegiance to Mordor, of course. I mean, who doesn't? Who doesn't love their Mordor? We certainly do here. Ah, man, that it's been so long since I had a chance to use this cadmium green here. My goodness. Ah, man, this is just this is a real treat right here. Finally getting to use my cadmium green again. It's one of the reasons we were a little bit later here. I had to mix the container because it was completely out. So, okay, we've done some of our warmer stuff. Now we want to do some of our cooler stuff as we welcome in Rex. Oh my goodness, they are definitely completely different. Let me see if I can get both containers for you. Now, obviously, the paper is not going to show you quite as, but well, here. Let's get this open for you. They are massively different. This one right here is going to be super bright. Obviously, you can see there's a big difference in the yellowness of it too. But this one is going to be a very intense color because this is actual genuine cadmium right here. So this is the real deal. This is not a hue or anything like that. It's the real McCoy, so to speak. There we go. Yeah, so this, as we've found, now ironically enough, that's what we're going to be using right now, is a little bit of that. So Rex, I hope that you are doing well. And cosplaying Kitten, she shows she's from Wappelville. She knows, well, Greater Wappelville, as we like to call it, also known as, well, Chicago. Now I'll take some of this quick dry white again. Oh, you know what? On our Twilight ring rates, what are we going to have to use? We are going to have to use the iridescent and the color shift. We're going to have to use the color shift on the Twilight ring rates because they're mine, so I get to do whatever I want with them. And I don't want them to just be like a white, bluish white Army of the Dead. So yes, we will do that. Oh, and I've got to get specters. Uh, specters. What are some of the other the spooks and haunts? I got to get some of those guys because then we could also do more of the iridescent stuff on them, so that they're not just like Army of the Dead. Oh, look at this! Look at that! So that's the warmer stuff. That's the you can see the difference in temperature there. Well, we can actually look at the well, as we know, the pigment numbers don't mean anything. Yeah, nothing even close there. Basically, I got this because I didn't really realize that, say, cadmium yellow light and phthalo green would pretty much get you the same stuff. Now, the other thing is, this is the other deal. This is the difference why I did get the cadmium green. See that right there? That is opaque. That's why it covers so well here, because this is a rare site. That is really very rare. What you usually see is that empty square. Maybe you get a little bit of a stripe through it. This is about as rare as you can possibly imagine. Like Terra Rosa and the Cab, those are the only ones that'll have this. So now, hey Warmonger, how are you doing? Yeah, if you've got, like you say, Warmonger, if you've got them both already, well, then you're good to go. Now the Viridian, all I have is just the cheap, nasty Viridian hue from the starter set. So yeah, that's not so fancy. So cadmium green, I'm glad I have it actually. I think if I wasn't doing so many things that actually kind of use that, maybe maybe it's not something I would really invest in. But as you know, it goes. Oh, it goes. Now that's the other thing too. Hey Drax, how are you doing? That's the other thing, is that because and we're gonna mix these two together, the fluorescent green and the cadmium green pale, because the other is so transparent. It's going to be really interesting to see what happens when we have the opacity of, say, something like the cadmium green. Yeah, I think I have a couple of barrel weights, Ford. I think I have a couple of the barrel weights. So I wanted to do barrel weights, specters, because we wanted to do a whole dead marshes type of a thing. We wanted to make a board for the dead marshes. And that would be just a really fantastic thing. Just a ton of specters out there. See again, look at all the different the blues there, the greens, everything. Yeah, Moe's the more color, or the darker that square is, the more opaque it's going to be. So you'll get a line for semi-transparent, you get an empty box for transparent, and you get a full black square for opaque. And that's about, and you have to figure with oil paints, at least 70%, no, more like 80% of them will be semi-translucent or completely transparent. Very, very few, unless they pretty much say cadmium in front of them, it's very rare that you're going to see something that is opaque. Now, Terra Rosa just happens to be one of those. So Drax, I recorded the next Patreon video, and it was all about mixing browns, and I'll show you the swatches of the Terra Rosa and the burnt sienna, because I hadn't used burnt sienna in a while, so I just wanted to play around with it and just see what it was like next to the Terra Rosa. And it was really neat to see the two of them next to each other. But what's hilarious is that they both have the same pigment number, and they couldn't be more different. One is opaque, other one's translucent. One is super flat, the other one is very glossy. But I guess the comparison I've been using is that you can have the same hazelnut coffee grind, but if you grind it fine or if you grind it coarse, you're going to get different things out of it. Yeah, Moe's, they've always kind of been there. I just haven't really paid attention to them because for me, I already kind of knew just based on watercolors and past oil experience which ones were going to be more opaque or not. But for other folks that haven't used oils for 40 years or whatever, that's not really going to be something they're automatically going to kind of think about, right? Now here is our two colors. I'm going to move you off to the side here. So Terra Rosa, super flat, super opaque, burnt sienna, kind of glossy, super transparent. Two colors are very nice, look nothing alike, and yet they are both the same, and it's from the same brand too. It's both Winsor Newton. That's what we've been talking about, Drax. It has to be dramatically different grinds. The question is, does a coarser grind make it more opaque, or does a finer grind make it opaque? As one or the other, it has to be. There has to be some way to find that out. I don't really know exactly where I could find out something like that, but there has to be some information somewhere. I'll just Google, what makes a transparent oil paint. Now we got this is almost straight up white here. Oh, hey, sky's clear. Let's see. Yeah, it's Terra Rosa is just so rare. I mean, it is unbelievably opaque, and I knew it was, but it wasn't until I saw it next to, say, burnt umber and some of the other umbers, just how opaque it was. It's almost like, yeah, it's opaque, whatever. Then you see it compared to other stuff, and you say, holy smokes, that's opaque. Ah, look at this. So, I mean, this is 45 minutes, and there's some people that would be just overjoyed just to be able to have this on the table. Let me see. I don't think it's the grind. I think it's the pigment. It's well, the pigment numbers are the same, so that's why we're speculating that maybe it's the grind, because or unless they're using different things to get the same pigment number, it's just I guess the whole gist of this is that's why I pay no heed to pigment numbers at all, because there was another set, the sienna or the raw sienna and yellow ochre were the same thing, two very different colors, exact same pigments. So that's why I just don't get into the the back and forth on that. I just use my eyeballs. Now we're gonna try it. I think this is dried out enough. Ah, that just works. There we go. Just get a little bit of our green onto here. It's very much like what we did here. So that is the effect that we are going for here. And let's keep going. More of our, we'll lighten this up some more too. It's just, you can see how much of that dark color that I'm picking up. So once again, we have to take our paper towel here, and we're going to have to wipe it off here. Now it's very simple, Rex. We just mostly phthalo green, but in some areas a little more indigo blue got mixed in with it. In some areas a little bit of the cadmium green got mixed into it. And in some areas, we actually let a little bit of the barite green mix into it. On the bases, it was a little bit different. I think we were using some Van Dyke brown, a little bit of burnt umber in there. So we're just gonna, that'll be our first layer there. Let's go to this one. Now we are actually starting to get in some of our fluorescent green here, because I don't want this to be very light, but I do want it to have a little bit of a glow on it. And as we've discovered, that phthalo green, or sorry, the fluorescent green, it can give you a little bit of punch, more so than you expect, even though it looks darker. Like, it looks very much darker than that, but once it hits the miniature, it looks kind of the same. It's weird. It's the darndest thing. There's just so many weird things that seem to happen more with the oils, which is cool. I'm gonna have to get some of that berry white. It is just it's amazing. Let's see. About the same thickness as the one you now paint with. It was the pre-glazes are much thicker than they used to be, which is not really unusual because it was like that with the acrylics. It started out much more soupy, much more watery, and then there was just less and less and less and less water in it, to the point where it was darn near just straight up blue liner, brown liner, and that was it. We weren't really making much of a distinction. It wasn't really any more liquid. And we're kind of doing that here mostly because we're trying to do more of that color changing in the pre-glaze. So hopefully that okay, I'm good. That's oh yeah, Warmonger. Don't we always say like there's raw umber, like raw and wriggling, and there's burnt umber. So here is raw umber. Where's my burnt umber? There it is. So there is your cooked burnt umber, and there it is raw and wriggling. See that? It's raw and wriggling, baby. What was interesting is how it acted with right here, the cadmium yellow deep. That was kind of interesting. And actually, the two umbers, they really held their own against the phthalo green. I was surprised. I was not expecting that. Okay, where did there's Mr. Filbert. So we are going to try at some point during this week, if I can remember, to get some of the Royal and Langnickel version here of these Filbert guys. Now let's go back in here. Not gonna do the no. We're gonna have the glow be a bit more on the cooler side. I think at least the glow that's going down onto the bases, we'll have that be a little bit on the cooler side here. There we are. Let's see, drift. Speaking of earth colors, no, I haven't tried any of those. The gambling stuff that I've been getting is usually just things like they had that 45% off sale, so I got things like the silver that was a little bit more expensive. I'm not gonna experiment with too many different oil colors since we're working on an oil paint line, and once the prototypes come out for that, I'm gonna have to start testing those. So I don't want to have too many tubes of paint here of things that I might not use because, well, paint line. Yep, the barite green is definitely Holbein, as is the crazy blue-gray. We need to get a little bit more of our light color on that too. So yeah, drift. One of the reasons why I've been experimenting with stuff like the iridescence and the different metals is just to say, okay, who did this right and who did this wrong? Because as we've seen, even companies like Gamblin, their silver is fantastic. The rest of their metallics, horrible. And people have gotten them and they say, oh man, I wish they were like the silver, but they're not. So we're trying to figure, okay, what is something like Winsor Newton? Their silver was terrible. It was useless. What makes one company's, and of course, the Gamblin silver dries really fast. And by really fast, I mean really insanely fast. What makes it do that? So that is up to the guys that are manufacturing the paints. And they've been studying that since, July, pretty much. Oh, hey, Dragon. How are you doing? I'm going to go this way. This way.
Hello, little hobbit. Spark my ganja.
Thank you so much for the follow, Dragon Coat. I appreciate that. Obviously, Gandalf does too. We're having some fun here with Harold and the Heralds. We're just trying to add to my army of the dead. So we're setting up some of our future effects here, which will be more of our fluorescent green, but also a lot of the corrosion and the oxidization. So that is going to be more of a glaze thing that happens with burnt umber, terra rosa, that sort of thing. Yeah, so we like, okay, why does the uh, the iridescent paint, why does that mix with the fluorescent wonderfully? Whereas the Gamlen silver and the Mig Ammo silver were terrible. They just destroyed the fluorescent paints. And like you say, is it the particles? What is it? Or is it just Zen for one? Zen for one, how are you doing? And at some point, uh, basically, there's been a go-between, an intermediary between myself and the person who's actually going to be the manufacturer. And we're hoping that once there are some prototypes, then we can just do some Zoom meetings and literally be like this. Because this is how, with the Pro Acryls, say they're metal medium, it was me on camera like this, and they watched me use that in comparison to a couple of other metal mediums. And that's why I have a jar with a handwritten December 2018 date down there. And I've got another jar that says 2019. So it takes a while to develop a paint line. Look at, I mean, it's not just the fact that the colors are changing, but you instantaneously get these smooth blends like this. I mean, that is just, it's so much fun. I think I can crank up my brightness now again a little bit. So hopefully, Zen for one, everything's going well. Maybe not quite that high. There we go. Now, as we've talked about with, say, our Ossiarchs, I mean, this, when you do this pre-glaze like this and you take advantage of it, it does not take long at all to take advantage of that pre-glaze. You can do bone, all this really fun stuff in just what seems like it's second. Oh, the metal medium, that is what I did. Oh, where's my Necrani things here? Is this the one that I'm looking for? Not that one. Ah, here's the one I'm looking for.
Hello, little hobbits. Spark my ganja.
Thank you so much, Timmy Too Tall, for the follow. That's appreciated. Gandalf appreciates it too. So all of the metals here, there was no metallic paint used. There was just regular paint colors, but I mixed the metal medium in here. Even this freehand stuff is metallic because I mixed the metal medium with that. Even your fluorescent paint here was mixed with the metal medium to get this effect. Now we're going to keep going. That's, I am going to bring it just a wee smidge here of my cadmium green. Actually, there is a dark sword bust that I thought I was going to be able to assemble for today. Maybe that's something that we hit on Thursday in the Thursday night show. That would probably be the next one. There's a couple of other ones that it kind of depends. It sort of depends on how the next few days go because I have a ton of videos to film. Oh, let me see. I wonder if oils are a good answer to the translucent plastic Reaper minis. Oh, sky's clear. On that particular topic, Badger, I don't know if they've made it or if he's just got some prototypes, but he is trying to make a clear primer color. So you could take your bones, plastics like that, the ones that have the color to them, you could prime them and then paint over them with something like all the oils, which are so transparent, because right now the oils wouldn't stick on there. So that is something that Badger is working on, which could be a very interesting possibility for those any colored figures like that. Oh, let me see. I believe all metallic paints are ground aluminum. Yeah, he posted it to the Badger Facebook, whatever. Oh, I think maybe a month or so ago, or maybe yeah, sometime in September. I think he posted that, and I have not been able to get in touch with him. Now, in was this part of the Saturday? I think this was part of the Saturday show here. This is where we're experimenting with some of the color shifting stuff, and then some of the iridescent was used over here. That's where we mixed it in with the green because we're trying to. Oh, and this actually just got posted on YouTube, so of course it's a. You can still watch the highlight here on the Twitch channel, but we're getting more and more of these Osyarks going. Let's see, an interaction. It says Mr. Hobbies, Mr. Metal primer is clear. Okay. Now, but of course, are these rattle can style primers? I guess that is the next question. Because we abandoned all rattle can priming many moons ago. Because in Chicago, yeah, there might be about 5 minutes out of the year where you can possibly use a rattle can. And actually, just regular priming, even just brush on priming like we do, saves so much money versus the rattle can priming. Yeah, we won't really be doing that much ever again. Yeah, that's the Stino-Res primer is something you can just put through an airbrush or just brush on. So that's where the advantage would be for us. Yeah, we stopped using rattle can stuff a long time ago. That's why we like the Army Painter Anti-Shine because well, we can just brush that on. I really enjoy the nice bright effects that are happening here. I think we're going to go another step up here, especially right around his eyes here. Maybe on the sword blade and a couple of other areas. And then we're going to start doing some glazy stuff. Here, let's hit this male.
Hello, little hobbits. Spark my ganja.
Oh, thank you so much. Let's see. Shish Miniatures. And if I pronounce that incorrectly, just let me know. Now, I don't know if they've already released that in Europe or something. I think it was more of a hey, who wants to see this product? So I don't know if he's actually made it or not. Now it could already be. Maybe he did it for MIG ammo and under the one shot name. Look at all this fun. Look at you got the cooler stuff down here. It's warmer up here. Lots of different things happening. Shock. I'm good with shock miniatures. That's good. You might have to remind me once, and then it'll be in my head. And we're just going to keep moving around back and forth between all these guys before we get back into stuff like our umber. We will respect the umber, of course. We will respect that umber. Let's see. All stuff really works well for hobby painters. I've been practicing for a month, and all stuff is looking better than my old acrylics. And half the time, and hopefully Rex, it is. Oh, shall we say just more chill, more relaxing, a little less crazy. Well, you'll have to let me know when that comes in for sure. Is that are you going to be playing with that stuff right away on stream, or is that something you'll just do some tests on your own? Let me see. Try to go to the local hobby store and get some of those toy plastic collectible dinosaurs and try to repaint them. Yeah, actually, I had to do that as a commission for a company that wanted to show people that their toy dinosaurs had detail on them. So I had to paint them as realistically as possible, which was pretty interesting, actually. Oh, geez, sky's clear. We make the joke that I should just burst into Galesburg, Illinois, and say I want 15% of everything because there's so much stuff that gets sold out. I mean, just I don't know how many times Armored Wolf has posted a link and people said that's sold out, it's gone. Even this stuff, we even sold out this stuff. We basically have anything that we've mentioned here has subsequently sold out. Remember the zero brushes that aren't going to be in stock again until January of next year? Yeah, we did that too. Well, that's why Armored Wolf kind of looked around, and I believe well, although these might start getting sold out too, but I'm going to try and get the filbert versions of these because these seem to be fantastic. These are like worthy relatives of the one true brush. Huh, Blick Day is like Christmas. Also, you will be testing it on the stream. So yeah, the new campaign books from GW, they actually are pretty nice. I know I know Zorpazorp, he's done a bunch of the campaigns out of the books, the new books that is. But for me, I make up my own campaigns with my own Lord of the Rings armies and such. I've been well. Let's see. I think we'll show you some of our other Lord of the Rings stuff now. I've been working on my terrain table. It's got sort of a Arnor feel to it. Oh, sorry about that. So Chalkboard, thank you so much for the follow. Sorry I cut off your follow there. So there's some of our basically Arnor themed terrain. We have much more coming. And here's a little bit of our Lord of the Rings stuff. So we got a Harad army well underway. We're going to be doing an Oliphant for that. We're going to be doing some of the not the camel riders. We've been working hard on our Rohan army. And of course, we've got our Dol Amroth army with just a wee touch of freehand here and there. Here is some more of our Army of the Dead. The Morgul Knights, which team up with my Easterlings. And my Easterlings, there we go. So this is my most developed army so far. I've actually played 3 or 4 games with my Easterlings, especially now that they've got some Morgul Knights to go along with them. Oh, and of course we have our Witch King of Angmar, but now I've got to do another Fell Beast that's got Khamul the Easterling on it, because we already have Khamul on foot and on horse, but now I gotta get me a Khamul on a Fell Beast for sure. So thanks again, Chalkboard, for that follow. Sorry I cut off your Gandalf sound, although we were still in Middle Earth. I think we are good to go on for now on our lighter stuff. Now it is time, like I said, we want to get in all of this corrosion right here, which means we've got to respect the umber. So let's do that. And if I remember right, we were actually using the number 1 for doing some of our glazy stuff here. And we're going to start off with some of that said umber over here. Maybe even a touch of our, yeah, let's have a little bit of our Van Dyke brown work its way in that. Maybe even a little touch of our blue here. But if we're going to be doing this glazing stuff, we want it to be relatively thin. And we just touch the brush there. So I would just literally just touch that brush there. We're not doing this. Touch that brush, let it go, let it do its own thing. We for sure want to get a little bit of this on his sword. It's only so many hours in a day. The mix of running games on those terrain tables with those minis. Yeah, Angry Ham, the idea is that we would try and live stream the games. Because, well, I mean, Zorpazorp has been doing it for months now. And I'd love to do it myself. We kind of like to have it where maybe people could potentially for bits and cheers, get hinders and helps, or just something along those lines. Maybe re-rolls, or maybe somebody gets a free might point or something like that for a certain amount of cheers or whatever. See how that starts to change this around now a little bit. Now I also have just a touch of that reddish brown. That's that quinacridone golden whatever. It's especially going to show up here on that shield. Now let me see. The thing is, this level of minis would interest in people and seeing a tabletop RPG game with them. Well, what would be fun is something along the lines of like a campaign where one game sort of feeds into the next. So it's something that's going on with the Easterlings and somebody else, and a certain result in that battle means the next one is fought this way. Maybe one side is going to be more of an offensive force, the other one's going to be more defensive. We have certainly done some campaigns long ago in the past. Actually, you can see those on the YouTube channel and on the blog. Now here we're definitely going to get some corrosion on this cloak here. Especially where we've got some of the holes there. Very much like what we did here. So you can see as the cloak gets down towards the ground, it has that kind of that stained look on it. That's what we're going to try and do here. Now the umber is going to be a little bit less thinned out. It's going to be more straight up here. Umber by itself is already kind of transparent anyways. Hey, Backlog Battles, how are you doing? Nice to see you again. Yeah, these crazy, now these are about 60 cents a piece, and once again, they've just proven themselves better than all of those expensive brushes that might cost $5, $6, $7 a piece. It's crazy. It is lunacy. I don't understand it. How can these companies make a brush and say, okay, here, give us this much for it, and it is just such a poor quality in comparison to these as far as actual usefulness goes. It's crazy. Now here, I think we're also going to do the same on this banner right here. So we're just going to throw in some of our darker coat. Now we're just going to use something here as a blending brush. I think you can see that. And look at that, just blend in nice together. Look at that. All of a sudden, looks very much stained, aged, that sort of thing. Can do that here too. Can move some of this around as well. I'm going to go back into some darker green over here, and the wonderful thing about those, you can really manipulate this stuff, push this paint around. If there's something you don't like, you could, in theory, just take the sponge and, well, wipe it away completely. A little bit more of our umber here. And then we'll compare this one to one of the other ones that hasn't gotten this treatment yet. So you can see the difference in the cloaks right away. You can see that the shield there starts to all of a sudden, look at your banners. Now we haven't really lost the glowing effect, but now it's starting to look a little bit more, shall we say, weathered, tarnished. I'm going to get some of the armor here too. Now these, of course, unlike the old Army of the Dead, these are digitally sculpted, so stuff like the armor and the straps and all that doesn't have any kind of weird, crazy effects on it like the old ones, especially, oh my gosh, the old metal ones. Oh, geez, you've taken all of the magenta. You said that the magenta green is all yours. You claimed magenta green and red green. I don't know if we can have any here. It's all been claimed. There's none left for us. Although, once I get that fluorescent magenta from Marion Street, then that's a whole different category. The fluorescent magenta green, that I can claim. I'm going to claim fluorescent magenta green. Then that would be a new that would be a new RPG system, Game of Sporks. And you would have to capture the plasticine spork throne, whatever. Whatever they call that throne in Game of Thrones, the show that I've never watched and the book I've never read. I'm glad you're doing well there, Paint Miniatures. Because, well, we're having some fun filling out the rest of our Army of the Dead. So here's some of the very old, like the old metal banner and some of the old plastics here. And now we've got Herald and the Heralds. So there's Herald, there's the Heralds, and they just dance, they do a song, do 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 doom like so, and they try and steal all the bits out of the jar. And then Wappelius tries to come along and save the bits out of the jar. The Iron Throne, I do believe that. Now, that doesn't refer to something that happens after chocolate covered raisins, I don't think. Unless maybe it does. Let's get some lighter stuff going on up here, too. We got his eyes. Alright, let's not keep going too crazy with our lights here on Herald. Let's try one of the Heralds. We'll get some lighter stuff. First up, maybe the metal surfaces here. And it's got to be pretty well broken. Well, the sword itself is pretty well broken up anyways, so best to break this up. Do we need to get some more? I might actually, I'm going to have to get some darks on his face. We've been doing a lot of stuff with the lights, but now we need some darks here. And yeah, that is the amazing thing about the Twitch community there. An awful lot of supporting each other coming from YouTube, where I originally was, where that doesn't happen at all. It's more the opposite. YouTube is very much the opposite of Twitch. So this was a real refreshing, fantastic change from that, that's for sure. Let's catch a couple of lights here on the rest of this banner design if we can. I don't want to do too much up here because then all of that rust and weathering and corrosion that we did be a little bit odd. That combination of super shiny metal right next to stuff that is, well, very rusted. But it does. It now some of the banner parts are starting to separate from each other. I didn't want it to just look like, oh yes, just green, because when you see these guys, what do people do? They usually prime them some kind of white, and then they just dump some green wash on them. Which, I mean, okay, that's fine. How long did this take? We're not even 3 hours into this, and that's a little bit more than just dumping a green wash onto some off-white primed miniatures. Wow, the dragon's all done? Well, let's see. Ah, that's right. She was working on it during the session, their D&D session, or no, their other session, Harlan's Heroes, right? So he has his feet and everything. Oh, that's too bad that she doesn't have it posted on Instagram. We could post the link to her Instagram thing. Let's see. Just looking up at the chat, seeing what's going on. Ooh, we got some of these little metal pieces here. I'm gonna have to find which of these little tiny quadruple zeros is. Well, I think we're just gonna start a new one here. We'll just start up a new one, and we might have to snip off some. See, there's a. Yeah, an extra bristle there that we'll have to snip off. I mean, it is just a $2 and something. Almost got it. There, got it. But I got more of these coming. I don't know when they're gonna arrive. Who knows? Welsh Gamer Guy, all you have to do, it does involve certain incantations and certain materials that you might not necessarily be able to find at your local do-it-yourself store. It might also involve torches, probably some kind of sacred stones, maybe robes with hoods and candles, and potentially some kind of Kool-Aid, something like that. There might be other initiation rites that have to happen. Who knows? Just think of it as a somewhat more, I don't know, rural version of one of those sort of office trust building sessions, I guess. The blind fall is done a little bit differently. You actually just kind of jump into a pit instead of just, falling a couple of feet into the arms of your fellow co-workers. So these little quadruple zeros right here, I've just abandoned all of the triple zeros in favor of that. So Dragon Eye wants to head over to the ancient tome, the Book of Wappel. Maybe we'll get down to the beginning because we've been doing a lot of stuff right at the end. Here, let's get started maybe towards the beginning here. Hey, Steiner Miniatures, how are you doing? There it is. There's the command to follow Steiner Miniatures. Yes, indeed, because that's how we stream for 8 hours here. We don't take breaks or anything like that. So that's why we have that command. And of course, the craft brush. What have we been using? We've been using nothing but craft brushes until now, right? Decision. You can be as precise as you want, but sometimes you just got to say, you know what, I'm going to use this color and I'm going to do it. Now, Steiner, I'm very happy to be getting back to my Army of the Dead here, painting some figures that I've wanted to paint for well over a year, and I'm just finally getting a chance to get to them now. So that makes me happy here, for sure. I hope you are doing well. Yeah, so we got Herald and the Heralds. Here's our Heralds, and there's Harold, King Harold, or King Harry. It's like, yeah. Now that's now have you been cutting them off at the wrist like all of? I know you were doing conversion stuff on them. Oh, let's get the little bit of light on the edge of this guy here. Yeah, you thought we weren't going to be doing this, did you? Ah, you didn't think that was coming. Surprise, surprise. And there's more surprises yet. There's more. There's other little fun things that we can add here. Who knows, we might even go back and add a little more rust and corrosion in some areas. Let's see. Oh, Mose, can you explain the color must go everywhere? Basically, it's to not have orphan color.
So say we all.
Now, Spider-Man, thank you so much for the gift sub. Oh, he's right there. He's going to catch it. he got it. He got that. I'm gonna just try and find some stuff for it. So even here, okay, you have all this bone color. Well, you can see there's some purple in the bone. There you can see there's some blue in here. So there was some red down there. Look, we got red up here. There's even a little bit of reddishness up here. And look, reddishness over here. So it's not just down here, it's everywhere. It's not just isolated. You almost have some blues and greens over here. Look, some greens over there, then greens down here in the base. And well, even here with something like this, again, we got some purple here. Well, look, it's in the sword blade, that blue, also in her clothes. It's also in the floor. Constantly have to think about not letting a color just be just kind of in the middle of nowhere. So here's another example right here. So we did that crazy kind of magenta color on the back, but then you see it everywhere else. You see it in his ear, see it like between his fingers there. Always trying to carry that same color, or even into the foliage, right? Some of the greens that are on him. Look at the mushrooms. They've got a warmer green, like the skin on his back. Then you get this kind of turquoise, which in some ways is sort of like what you got on your plants right there. So thanks again, Spider-Man, for the gift subs and everything else. Oh, yeah, this one too. Remember this. So we had purple here. It went into the blade, it went into the hair. It was even on the shaft of the handle. More purple over there. So it's that constantly saying if you put this color somewhere, yeah, like Kathy says, there's no crying in miniature painting. There is no crying in miniature painting. Oh, geez, we need to get some lighter stuff going on in here too. My goodness. And then, actually, the area that I originally wanted to hit was this. It somehow was forgotten there. Let's get to some of this. And something there. Couple of these pieces of mail here too. Oh, let's see. I really like the Ossiarch Patreon video last week. Clear steps for a simple miniature. I'm glad, Sakaya, that was helpful as far as a kind of a newer, kind of a starting out sort of thing. And those color mixing things, that is a handy exercise. It's kind of fun once you do a couple of them and you kind of, well, you learn how to have plenty of paper towels handy and that sort of thing. That's a really fun little exercise to do. And now that you saw those ones on painting browns, well, now I'm going to do a dark sword video using those, just like we did that dark sword video on the painting reds, using the color charts that we did for painting reds. So basically figure every time you see one of those kind of color theory episodes, there's going to be for sure like a dark sword episode coming up after that sort of takes those things that we learn and sort of expounds on them. Oh, Sakaya, that creature caster figure, that thing is too complicated for 10 people. Oh my goodness. That was insane. Although I learned a whole bunch with that one, and a lot of the more targeted pre-glazes that we're doing is actually a result of that. Yeah, let's get some more of our lights onto this guy. Yeah, now that we've got our quadruple round out here, we can actually reach some of these things. And look where my hand is here, right? Not death grip up here, but way back here. Backlog battles, I do believe there's not just crying. There's wailing, lamentations, and especially if it's creature caster, there will be especially multiple lamentations and crying. Because man, that is some rough stuff. There's no easy way to put together a creature caster figure. There's just how hard is it going to be? It's never how easy is it going to be. It's just how nearly impossible will it be. Now I have to say how much like these. Okay, the little rivets in here. I got to make a choice. Do I highlight those, or do I do some just some rust around those? I don't have to decide right now, but we'll see. Might change later on. I don't know, I might darken something that like in here, there's probably some darks that I might do. All I did was just, that's where I just slapped some lighter paint there. That was still post right after a pre-glaze there. The Welsh Gamer guy, I saw those, and then I saw that each one is, well, basically 200 hours, and I went, okay, well, that's, sadly, that's not going to happen here. Because if I'm spending 200 hours on GW stuff, I'd still rather have 200 hours worth of Lord of the Rings stuff. Which could be, even at elevated prices, still a fair piece of stuff. I am going to try and just get a little bit of my, no, not over there, this way. Go this way with it. There we go. Maybe a smidge lighter here. And we might come back and darken some things. Yeah, I might lighten those up. Maybe not this light, but here. These, oh, his knuckles on his sleeve. You know, I'm gonna use some of the barite green. And then we'll hit those little skelly friends down here on the base as well. I might have to, I might have to do a darker glaze over those too. There's a buckle here that we'll get, and yeah, let's go back over here. This is our kind of lightened cadmium green. I'm just going to do a bit on the top of the Skelly Friend's head here. Couple on these on the orbits here. Maybe a couple touches on the rocks there, which we'll try and do some blending on later. They do look neat. I assumed that they were going to be on the expensive side, especially if two of the regular giants together are about as much as one of them. I figured they had to be pretty big. Oh, actually, well, I suppose too it would be more. It would kind of be more fun to work on. Was that the Void Dragon thing? If I was gonna get an expensive thing. Let's see. I think that's it. No, I'm gonna just keep going with our lighter greenish color here. See what we can do up here, top of the banner. Because you saw how we brought out some things in this one. We're gonna start to kind of catch up this herald to the other herald. Get a couple of lights in the knuckles there. Let's get some lights onto his face. Before we're gonna do some, we'll do some things that are darker on here too, but for now, we'll do this and then we'll bring in some darks around those eyes. This is our latest chapter, right, that we've added recently is it has to start out messy. It can't end up, if it's going to be neat, it has to be messy first. Now, I'm thinking about doing the Star Drake. Would absolutely love to see you paint the Star Drake. That's, I don't think I saw that one. I don't think I saw that. Maybe I did, and I'm just kind of forgetting what that was. I only had a few seconds to look at, I think, whatever email was sent yesterday or today, or maybe that was the Saturday email or something. Yeah, I usually, especially weekends, I have very little time to do anything else except sort of live stream and sleep and potentially upload videos. Let me see. Yeah, I think that's it. We'll get a couple of lights up on the top of that. Not too much, because otherwise, again, it's like, okay, why all of the heavy corrosion and such then? Oh yeah, Welsh Gamer Guy. It's kind of funny. There was in the early days, years ago, when I first started using oils, I just thought, okay, there's certain things I'll use them for, and that's it. And then everything else would be way easier in acrylic. Only I started to realize, well, no, oils basically make everything easier by a lot, which is scary. Now, I think I am gonna get some darker stuff going on here. So I think this is our indigo blue. We'll just kind of get this going. It's always a very handy dark. It's always handy. Let's do this. Let's get some nice little contrast around his eyes now that we've got this quadruple zero round engaged here. There. And then we're going to do some more with some of the darker greens around even in the glowing part of his eyes. We'll do some darker greens in there. We're going to get some, we can even put some shadowy things in here too. We're just going to take that and we'll blend that with a blending brush, which can be just about anything. It could even be perhaps even this, as long as the paint's out of that. Let me see. When you take a commission for a Star Drake, Welsh Gamer Guy. Actually, well, we do commissions is actually still what we do for a living. That is still our primary source of income. It's just shipping anything overseas has become, oh, arduous at best, if not insanely expensive. So that really, like, we used to do eBay stuff all the time, and then it's a good thing we stopped before all of this stuff hit, because and actually international shipping was getting crazy before any of this craziness started. Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I started doing all of the videos and such, because it was getting to be really difficult with the shipping of stuff. Oh yeah, like Kathy says, the last small, I tried to ship a 5-ounce box to Australia, and it cost $64, something like that. Yeah, it was a tiny little box, one plastic miniature inside, and it cost $64 to send that. That was that's a no bueno. Even just sending a box to Canada costs 30 something bucks. See, that's where we start to sharpen up some details there. Now, is the Star Drake, because the Void Dragon, is that sort of the old, oh gosh, what the heck was he? What the heck was the old Necron thing, one of the floaty dudes? Was it one of the avatars or something? No, that's an Eldar thing. What was there was a couple, oh, the Nightbringer. Is that sort of like the new version of the Nightbringer? Oh, thanks, Welsh Gamer Guy. Well, we are not going anywheres, so we can always try as long as we can get that shipped out to you. We can definitely do something, and well, then you could see it painted on stream, if not in just some videos. Oh, is that the Stormcast Dragon thing? Okay, yeah, yeah, that wouldn't be horrible. Like not at all. Oh, the Catan. Okay. Was there a couple of those? It was the Catan Nightbringer. I know I painted a couple of those. There's actually a few of them on the blog. I painted them with the whole kind of galaxy-ish type cloak thing. I guess maybe Richard Gray or whatever, he must have had some kind of pre-release version or something like that of the Void Dragon, because I think he posted that to his Instagram before it was, or maybe it already did go up for pre-order. I don't know. Oh yeah, Welsh Gamer Guy. There's actually some of the Warcry stuff that I've been painting. Those are crows right here. Actually, this is someone who's on the Patreon page who actually commissioned these things right here, and he's been watching them painted. Oh, you got the Void Dragon last week. Okay. Ah, is Nix in the house here? Hey, Nix. Oh, thanks, Nix. I'm just having some fun with Harold and the Heralds here, getting some of the rare figs that are for me. So how are you doing? Let's see. So Nightbringer and Deceiver. Okay. Talk about some old metal miniatures that were interesting to, well, not just put together, but have them stay together. That was an interesting extra challenge. That was another place where green stuff glue, really helped. Yeah, I definitely did a lot of green stuff glue. Now let's take some of this darker, like we're doing now with the indigo blue here. How's about we take some of that, put that into here. Yeah, see, we can bring out a couple of these edges now. Not necessarily every single one. Ah, Five Guys got them early. That'll be the main piece of art in my house. Well, I guess that's handy, because then you could do, the basing. You know how much I love basing. Then the basing could be kind of on the exotic side and not have to worry about, bumping into things maybe on ye old tabletop. Oh geez, now I'm gonna have to. I'll have to look at find some pictures of that. So it's the Star Drake, right? I'll have to find some pictures of that. I haven't had a chance to paint. I have some Stormcast stuff here that I'm trying to get put together, because I thought it'd make some good tutorials, or at least some good live sessions for certain things. Again, using this as a little bit of a blending brush right here. That was just too much of a, that edge was a little too bright. I had to knock that down just a bit. I Believe it or not, I can hear the computer downstairs because my sounds are still on from yesterday, and I could actually hear that little bleep sound. So I thought maybe that was you sending off a handy picture. Now this thing here where we added some light, we got to add some more lights to that and then actually go back in with either some more darks or maybe some more of the corrosion type stuff. I'm going to start with the lights here and then we'll see. I'm going to go down now to our, well, I'm going to take a little bit of my phthalo green, mix that with my indigo. Let's get some of our darks right here. Separate that hand from the armor. Boom, like that. Maybe some darks in there too. What about his... I'm just looking up here at that weapon. Nah, maybe I won't mess with that too much. At least not right now. The crown. There's a bunch of little things going on with that crown too. I'm going to get some darks into his face, and then we're going to go back into that too. Let's move on. Oh no, I think this is our, because we're going to have to go. Oh yeah, yeah. This side over here where there's really nothing. I don't even know if you can see it. I think you can. That's going to be more of a glaze right there. Oh, let's see. Spider-Man just looked up that Void Dragon. It looks like one of those miniatures destined to fall off a table and shatter. Well, I guess maybe Richard Gere, I know he said he changed something about it. I didn't really get a chance to study it at all, really. I didn't even know what it was. I didn't even know it was a GW thing when I first saw it on his Instagram. So I put a little bit of dark under there, again, to strengthen that. Now I'm going to go back around to this guy. Remember we were talking about doing some darks around all of their eyes to kind of make our glow, well, look more like a glow. And if we want to have light, we must have dark. Because all we did was quite literally just throw a bit of a quick glaze in there. We'll even let some of our fluorescent green mix with that. It's going to be very transparent, which is good. Ah, that's better. Yeah. I mean, there was an awful lot of light that worked its way into the face. Maybe a bit too much there. Now here, we'll take our... This is almost going to be kind of a cooler color here. Let's not have junk on the end of that. And even this has some chips on it there too. And as I mix this, so this is another reason why we don't need to be worrying about steps of color, right? I just went in there with the brightest color, just mixed it, did a blend, boom, done. That's it. I'll catch you later, Megan. Thanks for hanging out. So Anvils of Heldenhammer. Okay. Ooh, nothing happening on his hand over here. Let's get some. I saw the arm over here, and I thought, well, let's get some stuff going there. But then I saw his hand, and I went, ooh, we have nothing on that hand. Still figuring out exactly how the shield gets rendered. And do we go even lighter? I think we can still perhaps maybe go a touch lighter with some of our rusty stuff. These guys, it's a bunch of little do thingies there. What the heck? I'll just start off with almost like an indigo blue here. there's a whole bunch of little dots. I did not see all of these little dots at first. And this is why it starts out messy, then ends up neat. You started out, you were just trying to block in colors everywhere. Color unity, right? Color unity is a thing. And it's not just for 2D art, it's for, well, anything that you want people to be looking at and either not get bored with or hurt their eyes on. Because you could end up doing both. Nice.
Hello, little hobbits. Spark my ganja.
Thank you so much, Bubba Gump, for the follow. That's appreciated. Gandalf appreciates it too. Probably Harold and the Heralds appreciate it also. I mean, I don't know if I can speak for the Army of the Dead, but I think they appreciate the follow too. So there's Harold, and we've got a couple of Heralds having some fun here doing our wonderful Army of the Dead. Finally going to have some miniatures that are not just kind of like everybody else in the army. There'll be something distinct to see. I mean, I have plenty of the old plastic ones.
Hello, little hobbits. Spark my ganja.
Thank you so much, General, for the follow. That's appreciated. But I think something like this will be easier to see if we try and do the live streaming of the games. It's like, well, okay, yeah, we can recognize Harold the King over there. We can see King Harold. It's kind of important to be able to see something like that, since any kind of a, well, with Lord of the Rings, your leader figures, it's not just about courage and those other sort of things and the special actions. It can even be the fact that they act as a banner within a certain distance. This guy, I do believe, also enhances the terror-causing aspects of Army of the Dead. Oh, thanks, Bubba Gump. I appreciate that. Here, let's get there. So we have the oxidization here. That's kind of in our crevice, but we need to sort of separate that from, I do believe this is his hair right here. Hey, Leopard Pixie, how are you doing? Yeah, the Twitch thing, it became a necessity when YouTube basically made it impossible to live stream there anymore for whatever reason. And I did realize how much more fun the Twitch experience was going to be. Like a lot more fun. Actual community, which you just don't have, unfortunately, on YouTube, and just so much more fun. Now, you know what? I'm thinking, okay, so we'll try and get some final lights into his eyes right now. Let's see if we can do this. Now, that this palette, now that it's the third session we've used it, it's got some piles of stuff kind of all over the place. Now, this is unlike some of the other ones. It's not just a skeleton thing with some empty orbits. There's actual kind of like, I don't want to say eyebrows, but it's sort of like these sunken eyes. So we're trying to do that kind of effect. Also want to maybe take this here with our phthalo green and almost make it like a bluish gray here on the outer portions of his face instead of just the green. I mean, as much as we like our glowing green, yeah, this could use a little bit of, as much as, again, I liked all the shadows and such, but now we have a little blending brush, just push the, yeah, that was kind of a little bit flat right there, not a lot going on. Oh yeah, it's really fantastic, and then of course you get to, well, not always, but hopefully get to see what the other folks are doing, and just kind of talk to them in their chats about it, and then they come back around into yours, and you can ask them how that project is going that you saw them working on. And especially, I guess, for those of us that used to have game stores where people painted and stuff, and then when all that stuff was taken away years ago, this is kind of a it's kind of fun because, well, you don't have to worry about, going somewhere. I don't have to drag all my stuff somewhere. It's all right here. So oh, let's get some of that darker. I don't think I'm going to use like this darker brown here maybe. And a couple, I see some more of these little holes, dots, whatever. Hey, hooty hoot, how are you doing? Well, I'll catch you later, Dragon Eye. Thanks for hanging out. And I hope Harold and the Heralds was an entertaining affair tonight. And eventually we'll try and throw this up on the YouTube channel as well. Just gonna let a little bit more of the that umber work its way into here, and then we'll just do some nifty little blending here and over here. Yep, that's spending the night on Twitch. Yeah, Leopard Pixie for us, that was gone. Oh my gosh, that was taken away probably 5, 6 years ago. So yeah, we never even we never even made it to this stage. I think it was about 2014 or so that the store that we had gone to for years, and it was a giant store, and that got shut down because they wanted to do the one-man store thing or whatever that idea was. So we'll get some of this lighter green now, and we'll just let this do some blend. It's literally blind blending. I have no idea what's actually happening there. I can tell it's blending with something because that brush is a whole lot darker now. And it's a whole lot darker than it was a couple seconds ago, so it must be doing something. It's also going to be a bit of a cooler color too. And this is where we start to add the refinements, right? It starts out really messy and then boom. Backlog Battle says, someone hype me up for building something. Well, I suppose the only way to get something to paint is to have that sucker put together. And nobody unenjoys putting together midis. Like, I really do not like that process a whole bunch. It can sort of be handy because as you're putting it together, that's kind of where the final basing ideas come from, is as I'm actually putting it together, because I start to see what the footprint of it is going to be. Is it one of those things that I could have up on just one leg, or is it something I could have on a more dramatic base, or maybe it can't be on quite as dramatic a base? I know that's not exactly high motivation there to get to be putting stuff together, but just think about it. If it gets put together, then you can get to basing it. And that's where the true fun begins. Now, I usually hyped it first, then the roadblock, and then gluing the fingers together. Oh, yes, that. Just ask Kathy all the wonderful things that happen with glue. The wonders of glue and green stuff. Now let's get to more of our, this is our brown again here, and something's going to happen with this thing here. So it can't really be much darker. I'm going to just try some of this, well, it's sort of a semi-lighter phthalo green. We'll put that in this little gap right here. Now I'm painting it, it's somewhat thin as far as it's got a little bit of the liquid in there, and if it doesn't really cover very much, then I almost have to think about just going drier with something else here. And that's what we mean by that. The thicker paint will stick to the thinner paint. Sometimes that's what you just have to do is say, okay, if it's not sticking, it means I've either got to make it thinner or make it thicker. It will depend entirely on kind of what your last layer was. If it was something very thick, well, you're going to need to thin down that paint. Now here's just a little hint of the umber there into this lighter color. Not everything has to be a light green here, so even that highlight being something that's not green, kind of on the interesting side. Let me see. Oh yeah, the leopard pixie. So Kathy, well, she'll be doing her usual thing tomorrow afternoon. Well, I'm sure she'll be working on her goblins. She's just been absolutely having a blast with those. With the stripy socks and the stripy hats or whatever. Which is, I don't know, maybe it was seeing those that gave me the idea to put the Mimes of Moria up onto my image sets here. I always loved those Mimes of Moria. And I'm gonna get some of a little bit more of the, yeah, straight up that off-white yellow. Man, that is just such a nice, intense color, man. Obviously very opaque. I think I need a couple of glinty things on the crown, even though we want it to be pretty heavily weathered. His sword here, fingers. Oh, there's actually a little bit of a belt buckle right here. Fortunately, it's not a buckle golem like some of the miniatures tend to be today. Now let's see. I could build lots of things. Ossiarch, Maggot King, Space Marines, Death Guard. Well, you know me. I'm a huge, well, obviously a big fan of the Ossiarchs now. In many ways, it's almost like having my Tomb Kings back. It's not the same, but been able to have some nice fun with those guys. So in some ways, it's almost like having them back. What's going on the other side of Harold's sword? We need to get just right here on the end, I think. I think right there on the end. Yep. And then just a couple of more of these. Again, they're almost like little dots there. We don't want to do a full line. We're just kind of breaking that up as much as possible. Yeah, that's Welsh Gamer Guy. That's why people like to say Jim got Tomb Kinged. And I think you saw the Tomb Kings project, right? Because I can show you that. I'm just gonna get something to drink here. So yeah, unfortunately, I had spent almost better part of 2 years working on this little project right here. And that's not all of it, actually. That is most of it, not all of it. And there was tons of scratch building, super conversions, everything. Just this top level here, everything on there was scratch built except for those couple of Empire guys, and I think the one Tomb King's figure. Everything else was basically all scratch built or sculpted, however you want to phrase it. The whole story of that army, everything. And then they went away. I got to play all of, well, I never even got to play a complete game with them because the one tournament that I took them to, the games were basically over by the first turn. And we tried playing a couple of practice games with them, and they were so horribly designed as far as their stats and everything that they just were unplayable anyways. And that was somewhat disappointing. And yeah, you can check out, you can want to see the story and everything that's on the blog. You can check that out as we add some more darks over onto this side. I'm going to go one more here. I got to take my indigo blue. The Oesteiner is still around. Yeah, that was not a. I wasn't super thrilled with all of a sudden people like, yeah, you can't use that anymore. And I went, say what? And they said, yep, that's gone. They're gone. They don't exist anymore. Oh, and by the way, your lizards flew away in a spaceship too. And I'll show people the Lizard Man army later. So that was kind of a double whammy right there. And also at the time, they changed the way the Imperial Guard work. So I went from having 3 armies to no armies. And that's when I discovered things like bolt action. Because, well, there you can't change the fluff. So we decided we like stable game systems like Lord of the Rings, where as much as they would love to put a plasma pistol in Gandalf's hand and have him riding around in a Land Raider, ain't gonna happen. No, Leopard Pixie has a seal box of a Wood Elf starting army. I think you've been seeing what I've been using of some vampire counts for, and I've done this on a bunch of bases now. So this is where all the vampire counts are going. They're all going right here. So this is for a vampire counts army. I'm just using this stuff on bases now. I mean, maybe one day I'll be able to print that kind of stuff, which would be nice. Actually, wouldn't mind be able to print that kind of stuff out. Lots of the skulls, the GW skulls, they're fine for the human stuff, but I would like to have like Green Stuff World where they make the ogre-sized skulls, the larger ones, and almost like the giant skulls. And I'm sure there's tons of Thingiverse and wherever, tons of stuff like that to print out. So we're just still getting some more, starting to wrap up a few more details there. Now I can go back to some of my fluorescent green in some places because now we've kind of worked our lighter colors in and a darker colors in. Oh, I think we got an open spot over here that we can do. I think that Egyptian violet there is mostly dry. Now let's get some nice fluorescent green in a few spots over here. Especially since some of the robes, they're not dry. Not dry, but that paint has settled. Settled enough that I can go back in here and do some fun things. Oh yes, that Welsh Gamer guy, the Tomb Kings, the Lizard Men, all of those. The Lizard Men. I played dozens and dozens of games. I did campaigns with them. I did all kinds of stuff with that Lizardman army. And then yeah, they were gone too, and just for various reasons everything was sold off because I at that time I just couldn't be having stuff if there was going to be no use for it. It just had to be gone. And I'm still that's why we're doing the Osiarchs is so that I'm kind of getting my Tomb Kings back, and that's why I'm doing them via the Patreon page. Is that I'm adding more of my fluorescent green in here because that's the only way I get to kind of keep those. Otherwise, everything else ends up just being for commissions, and then, well, it kind of goes away as commissions do. Now we get some of our darker brown here, a little bit of indigo. We got more of these little holes again that we got to take care of. We might have to go into that area there with either something lighter, mid-tone, whatever. Oh, geez, we got some more holes right in here. That's a little better. Oh, hey, Chip Douglas. How are you doing? Let's see. Yeah, now they haven't done any new sculpts, I believe, right? Oh, and actually, there's gonna be lizard men painted on the stream in November because that's a new commission thing, but they're gonna be from Mears Miniatures. So there will be plenty of Lizardman action. Now, I do actually have a Lizardman Blood Bowl team that I painted for a Patreon series somewhere. Ah, yeah. So I paint, yeah, Lizardman Blood Bowl team. We used the Green Stuff World rollers, and then we put some vines on there, and we had lots of fun with our medals. We did some fun little designs, right, to give them some uniforms, and we gave them their little numbers there on their, yeah, because I used to have several Blood Bowl teams. I still have all of my Blood Bowl stadiums. Well, Welsh Gamer Guide, they might come back when they do that old world thing. At some point in the next few years, it looks like they'll be doing a square basing game again. I think kind of what happened is over the course of the last few years, they've seen that other companies are having success with basically square base movement tray games, aka Song of Ice and Fire. So I don't know if you've seen some of this Song of Ice and Fire stuff. Yeah, Welsh Gamer Guys, somewhere I have a few different boxes of Chaos stuff. Well, they're not the newest Chaos Knights, but they were not the original old metal and plastic ones. I've got those somewhere. That is a. I don't know when I'll get to try and finding all that stuff. Now we're going to add some more of our fluorescent green onto his helmet. I know you can't really, it's tough to see with his banner being there. But yeah, fortunately, well, even something like this. So the Necrons here, I never get to paint with any kind of TMM or metallics because all of the commission stuff is always not metallics. And since this was an army painting series for the Patreon page, I was able to, that was the one way I was able to experiment using that metal medium, mixing it with regular paints, and having a blast with that. Otherwise, yeah, that's not really going to happen. I still want to make sure that that is a cooler color right there. I'm not going to get any of the fluorescent green onto the cloak there, but I am going to get some out to here. See how that change? That looks so bright. That is not a bright color. Yeah, unfortunately with the Tomb Kings, they were literally unplayable. There were several games where I just was either shot off the table in 20 minutes by dwarves, or was outrun by dwarves, or the orcs just fired some magic goblin lobber thing and killed the either the hierophant or whatever it was. The whole army just disappeared in a turn and a half, and I went, well, okay, there's not much point in doing this. That's why I love Lord of the Rings, because there are no unit killing spells. There's none of that. Even the toughest things in the game, like the Witch King, those cannot win you the game by themselves. Not even close, actually. Let's see if we can arrange the storage rake. We can also do some NMM and on that figure. Yeah, the TMM is it's kind of a fun thing, and like I said, I never ever got to do it until I started doing some stuff for myself. So see, we're now getting a little bit of our fluorescent into there. Leopard Pixie says I like square bases. So kind of what was giving me bringing back a little bit of this square base thing was here. We'll get into some of our Song of Ice and Fire stuff here. I just need to scroll down to that real quick here. Let me see if I can find that. Oh, there's all my Reaper stuff. Here we go. So this is some of the Song of Ice and Fire stuff. And again, this was one of the very first Patreon army painting series, was this. And love me my Sky Earth non-metallic metal. For me, it's always going to be the non-metallic stuff because as a 2D artist, that's what I kind of grew up with. Now, of course, I love doing the freehand. Now, this was the most challenging basing and the metallics because the non-metallic had to be a little bit different color, kind of a purple. And that basing was very complex because every base had, look at that pattern right there. I had to follow that pattern. Now here's some more of our Song of Ice and Fire stuff. So again, we got that Sky Earth non-metallic metal that I love so much. And these guys were also done in oils. Had a blast with those. And of course your Knights of Casterly Rock. So, and of course we love our cavalry, and I've painted 5 of these units so far. And they're all past sessions. Some of them are on the YouTube channel as well. So that's kind of, I'm able to sort of get back into the movement tray type things a little bit with those. Now we're taking, see, when we just have the fluorescent green and we mix it with the white, it just kind of kills it a little bit. It makes it lighter, but it does take away some of the oomph, which is interesting. Now, if you check out some of my 2D art, I actually did a blog post that explains, well, one of the reasons why I paint non-metallic metal, because there was a point where just there was a lot of back and forth about non-metallic and stuff. So Welsh Gamer Guy, the oils actually do make those non-metallics very much more simple. So we did, actually you can watch, this is a YouTube video here, between the marble, all of these little, non-metallic metal things going on, the oils just make it so much easier. And what's fun is that with the environment, right? It's all about the environment that these guys are standing in. That's what's going to determine what happens. So whether it's going to be something here like our Cipher Lords or something more like this with our Sisters of Battle, you can see all the green reflections there because, well, she's standing on a green base, green cloaks. The oils made that really, really easy. All I had to do was just kind of put yellowish colors over the gold, and that made it a nice, fun process. I need to get either some lighter things or darker things or both onto that one piece of armor here. So we're going to do that. We will thin this stuff down. This is that off-white yellow. Let's get in there and add some lights to this. right there. That, oh, I think there's even a buckle over there. Now this one, I don't want to do too much with these lighter colors there. I don't want to be drawing stuff far down. I also got to get some lighter things going up here. And I'm thinking, no, that's going to be a little bit too light. Here we go. So I just want to get some phthalo green into that to sort of cool it down a bit. But oh, let's start up here. Start up here. And yep. And hopefully as we do this, some of those rusty colors that we put down in there, those start to stand out a little bit. I did have to wait to do that, because if I kind of jump too fast into that, it's just going to wipe it away. We're going to see if we can't get a couple of, yeah, I'll just pick out a couple. And these aren't like really bright highlights. They are lighter. They're kind of a mid-tone. I'm going to take some of this lighter color right here, and on his helmet there, I think it needs a couple of very bright, then doesn't need that hair on it. And that might give it just enough of a glint there to look, yeah, a little bit more like metal. I mean, making adjustments, not a bad thing. Easier to make adjustments if you started out like we did, blocking out everything and then going back in for details. Oh, thanks, Most Gamer Guy. This is, it's really neat to be adding on to what was already existing. Just having an absolute blast with this. And getting a chance now to get back into that fluorescent green with the oil paints that I think it almost looks like a little, that almost looks like a teddy bear on the front of his face there. I just can't wait to get a chance to use these guys. They actually did get used in a game. I was trying to teach a friend of mine Lord of the Rings. This is either late February, I think it was, maybe something like that. Might have been late February. And it was the Army of the Dead versus my Easterlings. Yeah, we're gonna get some of this slightly lighter color. I gotta do something here with his fingers because there's nothing there. That's better. Maybe even something on that hilt of the sword. What's happening up here? What is this? Oh, okay. More little metal highlights here. Brighter. Again, something that gives it that glinty hint of metal right over here. One there, maybe one right there. That's it. No more. Can I make this, like, I can get the eyes a little bit lighter here. Sort of. See, those are more just the kind of hollow eyes right there. The other two have actual sort of something in the eye sockets. The banner here, I might catch a couple right here on this line of the banner. Couple that's it. Maybe this over here. Oh, Oathbreakers. That's what these guys were called. That's right. And I'm going to have to, the other thing I'm trying to do is locate some old white dwarfs because I found some here and they actually had a fair amount of Lord of the Rings stuff in them. And now we're talking like old issues of White Dwarf that go back to the mid 2000s and stuff like that. And I'm trying to find some of those. I know we had a few here, and I just scoured them for Lord of the Rings articles because they had some special scenarios in there and special profiles. That's what I'm looking for. And I saw some of those and I went, wow, these are spectacular. I didn't know enough back then to be able to do something like that. But it's one of those things, well, knowing what I know now, and if we want to do those live broadcasts of Lord of the Rings games, it could be very fun to have those old scenarios again. Try and combine them with the new stuff somehow. Now I'm going to get, of course, the shield is sort of blocking the approach of my brush here, but there we go. So I just needed to get a little dot of that lighter color and then I'll just mix that. Not going to do anything else in here except maybe take that fluorescent green and move it around. See that kind of scumbling thing that I did? Just move that around. Alright, this here, got to do something on one side or the other of this. So we're just going to take some of this white. Oh, come on. More of that white. And then I'm going to put this here. And we're just going to try and blend this. So this is again where we're just going to take this. Look at that, 3 very bright lines. Then we go in with something that is, oh, like our wonderful new Royal and Lang nickel. And then we soften these lines here. But that kind of keeps the color a bit cooler. Anything else would have just warmed it up too much. So see how we soften that line now? There's another line that we can soften going in the opposite direction. So all we did was 1, 2, 3 strokes, and then we just kind of softened those up, took down some edges, and it leaves behind some highlights. So there's not 2, 3 layers of paint. That's just one layer, and then take some of it away. We have, I think, a nice difference here. The warmer stuff going on with that scabbard kind of compared to all of the fluorescent greens and everything else going on around it. I might do a little bit of, yeah, I think some of these holes are looking a little bit flat, so as much as I'd prefer not to be highlighting those so much, I think it kind of has to happen a little bit. And I might just get a little bit of something on the end of this scabbard here. This is my sort of Terra Rosa yellow mix. Almost make that look like some kind of aged leather. And maybe we use this in a couple of other spots here. Let's see. Did we lose the chat? Oh, okay. I saw that and I went, uh-oh. I was about to go look at my bit rate and stuff like that to see it. Oh, did the stream die or something? Ah, yes. So this is going to be here. Let's almost do this in kind of a glazy way here. I mean, we can almost maybe, I don't want to say give it hints of gold or something like that, but now up here, see where it's not all just giving it that greenish highlight. By doing something like this, almost you're kind of giving it, well, this is a little bit of what the actual banner might have looked like. Maybe this is actually some kind of gold trim or whatever instead of just all green. See, we're going to do some of that right here too. It's that sort of, this is what makes it look partially ethereal, is that in some ways you could say, well, maybe that was some kind of gold thread on there or whatever, and now it's tarnished, some of it's ethereal, so we just kind of put that gold color there on, which ironically enough, that's the same exact symbol that they use on the Corvus Cabal, like the exact same one. It's very much just a ZBrush copy paste thing right there. See what happened to the handle there. That changes a little bit. Now we need to go back into this bit O armor over here. And maybe even that gets a little bit of a yellow-ish. I know I was thinking about trying to get maybe some raw sienna out on the palette or whatever, but and some of the yellow ochre, but I just did not get a chance to mix new containers of those as we get some more yellow there on his helmet. Maybe even here on the sword hilt in a couple of places. Up here too. You know what? Let's try this. If I there is, boy, I tell you that genuine cadmium yellow, it really does stay workable for days. Because I'm going to get some of that here. There's too much of the same thing going on. Too much of the same thing. This is one way to change it. Bring in some of the yellow. You can see that we did that here. And that is a very similar thing that we're doing right now. And these things, my goodness, this was painted a long time ago, probably 2 years ago. Wasn't even looking at it, and just, you can see, oh, we got Cutthroat in the house. How are you doing? Yeah, Cutthroat, we're doing a Herald and his Heralds. And we're just trying to match some of our old Army of the Dead here. And these were done with acrylics, actually an old army painting series, that's right. So trying to get the somewhat ethereal, somewhat corroded look. So folks definitely want to give Cutthroat the follows because, well, follows are free. I hope that you are doing well. I hope you had I'm sure you must have been streaming over the weekend. I could swear that I got an alert at some point over the weekend. And I hope all that the current projects are going well. Now we're going to do the same thing here. We're going to try and incorporate some of that gold-ish color right there. Yeah, we'll get some. There we go. Some of that gold into here too. Well, it's sort of gold. Not really gold, sort of gold. We'll pick out a couple of these now. Oh yeah, there's nothing going on over here. We need to do a whole bunch of stuff over here. Yep, because we lightened these, and how did these not really get much of anything at all? So we'll do something about that here. Okay, first we'll hit a couple of these, and now these lines right here. We did a lot of the darks around those. We never did anything that was light on these. I was kind of hoping to not just be doing a green over the top of that. So see, it's almost like we're bringing in, there was some kind of gold pattern here. Not just green, something else besides green. It's great to have the green, but it's also really nice to have the variety.